The two coaches, and the first little interesting tidbit, John, is Arizona winning the toss with that potent offense and electing to defer.
Yeah, remember the last Super Bowl that Ben Roethlisberger was in? He said he started nervous and was nervous the entire game. And I have a feeling here the Cardinals want to check him out tonight right off the bat to see if he'd gotten rid of those nerves.
At a 23 quarterback rating, still won the game. Neil Rackers to kick off. 6 touchbacks on 18 kicks. Gary Russell, who's their short yardage back and run back specialist, is back there. Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. The buildup is over, and away we go in Super Bowl 43. Russell from the 4-yard line, straight up the middle. And Rackers will stick his nose in coverage. He's right there. Rackers makes the tackle. Let's take a look at the Steelers starters.
Ben Roethlisberger, Miami University.
Woodley Parker, Clinton High School.
Hines Ward, Georgia. Santonio Holmes, D, Ohio State University.
Heath Miller, Virginia.
Matt Spaeth, University of Minnesota.
Max Starks, Florida.
Chris Kimoyatu, University of Utah.
Justin Hartwig, West Des Moines Valley.
Darnell Stapleton, Rutgers University.
Willie Colon, Hofstra University.
That Steeler offensive line under a lot of fire earlier in the year, but they played better through the second half and in the playoffs. And they start with 3 tight ends, and they run it up the gut, and they give it to Willie Parker, who takes the ball up to the 31-yard line. So a gain of 3 for Willie Parker, who had the longest run in the history of the Super Bowl 3 years ago in Detroit. There's Ben, averaging better than 10 wins per season over the last 5. Won the Super Bowl in his second year, John.
Excuse me, I was going to say it was interesting on that first play on first down. They had 3 tight ends in there, ran to that side. Now on second down, you can see they have 3 wide receivers.
Play fake. Roethlisberger rolls. First pass to Ward. And Hines Ward, with that knee, and Andrea discussed all that went on, got wide open and gets forced out of bounds by Roderick Hood after a gain of 38 yards.
And I think that's the play that Ben Roethlisberger needed and the play that Hines Ward needed. See, this is a bootleg. You fake the run to the left, bootleg out to the right, make a little pump fake to hold that linebacker, and then get Hines Ward up there free. Watch him now. He looks like he's running fine to me. Now, he didn't have to cut to his right. His bad leg is that right leg, so he's going to have a tough time cutting off that maybe. But knowing Hines Ward, I don't believe that.
Already longer than any pass play for Roethlisberger in Super Bowl 40. Toss. Can Parker get outside? Yes, he can. And Parker turns what would have been no gain into a nice gain. Arizona struggling on defense all season long, playing better in postseason, but through the year, the Arizona Cardinals giving up a lot of long plays, allowing 49 touchdowns, the most ever by a team, to get to the big show.
Well, you know, that play was, again, 3 wide receivers, and the Cardinals were in nickel, so they got 2 big plays against the Cardinal nickel defense, 5 defensive backs.
They have Sean McHugh lined up as the fullback in the backfield, and he'll provide leverage, and Parker's going to get taken down. It's close to a first down, but they may have stopped him, and that's Adrian Wilson, and you'll see a lot of him. The strong safety, the senior Cardinal in terms of longevity with Arizona, 8th year in the league, drafted in 01.
Yeah, and as you say, he's a strong safety, but he plays an awful lot like a linebacker. And you see him, he's right there in the left of the screen there, and you just see him coming in right here. He was at the line of scrimmage, and most of the time, if it's a running down, Adrian Wilson will be up or around the line of scrimmage.
That is enough for a first down. Warner biding his time on the bench. The ball is at the 22-yard line. 2 tight ends in this set. Ward in motion. Roethlisberger gets it away quickly and finds the tight end over the middle, and that's Heath Miller. He loves to go to Heath Miller. And Miller will set up a 1st and goal, 21 yards right over the middle.
And the Cardinals said that they were going to pressure Ben, and they come on this play, and Here's Heath Miller right here. Ben Roethlisberger feels the pressure and gets rid of the ball quickly on a slight post to Heath Miller. That's Willie Parker there, the running back. He gets Cheeky O'Keefer, and that lets Ben get rid of it to Heath Miller.
Gary Russell in the backfield with Carey Davis. Their short yardage package. And this is Russell, and that's a great play by Antonio Smith. Smith out of Oklahoma State in his 5th year, racks him up behind the line of scrimmage. So from 1st and goal at the 1-yard line, they go to 2nd and goal at the 5.
He's one of those guys that will get penetration. And you see right there, he gets the penetration. In fact, they get penetration on both sides. This defensive line does a very good job at that. You know, especially Antonio Smith and Darnell Dockett also will get penetration down here.
Now they put Parker back in the game after they go with their short yardage unit.
3 wide receivers.
Nate Washington's the 3rd wide out. They're going to give the ball to Parker. He's going to move to the outside, and Parker tries to get to the goal line and can't. As you can see, he'll be stopped inside the 1-yard line. Ralph Brown and Roderick Hood both up from the secondary to stop him. It'll be 3rd down and goal on the game's opening drive.
And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have found something in that 3 wide receivers that it's pretty good throwing, but it's very, very good running. They're having more trouble running with their 3 tight ends than they are thus far with their 3 wide receivers.
Steelers, it's been rough for them, as you can see, on 3rd and 4th and short. That's the situation here right now. And Roethlisberger with a bootleg, the fake. Ben looking for the end zone. Can he run it in? He leans in and gets the touchdown. He leaned right through Darnell Dockett, and as was the case in Super Bowl 40, Pittsburgh gets on the board with a Roethlisberger rushing touchdown.
That's what you get when you have a 245-pound quarterback. He gets down right here, puts down his shoulder, and runs it right into the end zone like a fullback. Usually you don't see quarterbacks hit with their throwing shoulder. This is a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger says, all bets off.
Justin Hartwig, his center, helped escort him into the end zone. Jeff Reed lines up to kick the extra point. And the Cardinals, and there's the challenge flag. So Ken Wisenhunt is going to challenge. There's such irony here.
Arizona's challenged that the runner was down prior to crossing the goal line.
This is very close. We think, in looking at the replays, that his knee was down. Check his left knee. Where's the ball when his knee is down? We have a couple of different angles for you. There it is. The question is, that's the end of the play right there. Where is the ball? Now keep in mind, the officials can use composite angles. They don't have to see one camera shot that shows you everything. They can reach a conclusion from multiple shots and figure out where the knee is and where the ball is from different angles. So it looks like there's a chance this is going to get overturned, and if it does, what a decision upcoming for Tomlin. Here's McCauley.
After review, the runner was down short of the goal line. The ball replaced at the 1-foot line, 4th and goal. Arizona is not charged with a timeout. Please set the play clock to 25 seconds.
And Mike Holmgren is saying, now? It's 3 years ago, Ben got the benefit of the doubt, and now what is Tomlin going to do? And he's going to send
They're going to kick the field goal,
Reed out. Yeah. A 5-minute drive. They started at their own 28-yard line. 6 rushes, 2 passes, the big one to Ward for 38 yards, and now Jeff Reed with what amounts to an extra point, because the ball will be spotted at the 9-yard line. A 19-yard field goal attempt for one of the best kickers in the league.
Right, and I agree with this call. I know it's a tough thing to do. It's a lot tougher for a coach to kick the field goal here than it is say, yeah, go for it.
Right.
But this is a percentage play. This is a play you have to do.
Mitch Berger will spot it. And the kick by Reed is good. Ken Wisenhunt with the challenge. Another look, John. It's interesting he deferred, and that could have been a bad call if Pittsburgh goes in and scores a touchdown. But then the challenge here, and they settle for the field goal.
Well, he saved it there, because had he lost the challenge, and then had to defer and then had the 7 points, he would say, well, this isn't the way I dreamed of starting a Super Bowl.
Right, and then he would have been down to only one challenge the rest of the game. If you win a challenge, you still have the opportunity for 2 more. Kickoff fielded by J.J. Arrington. And Arrington brings it up to the 27-yard line. Let's take a look at the Cardinals.
Phil Warner, University of Northern Iowa.
Edwin James, the U.
Terrell Smith, Arizona State.
Larry Fitzgerald Jr., University of Pittsburgh.
Anquan Bolden, Florida State University. Leonard Pope, University of Georgia. Mike Gandy, Notre Dame.
Reggie Wells, Clarion University.
Lyle Senline, University of Texas. Deuce Tui, USC.
Levi Brown, Penn State.
The Cardinals starters as they begin from the 27, and Warner will give the ball to Edgerrin James, who was the starter at the beginning of the season, lost his job, and now has reassumed that role. The Cardinals were ranked last in the league in rushing, but they finished 4th in the league overall in offense because they were 2nd in passing.
Right, and they've been better running in the playoffs, and Edgerrin James, because he sat out about half the season, seems very fresh now.
Warner out of the gun. Bolden is 81. You can't miss Fitzgerald. He's on the same side. He's 11. Warner looks to the right side and throws, and the catch is made, and paying the price right there was Steve Breaston, who gets knocked to the ground by Bryant McFadden, a little short of the first. It'll be 3rd and 1.
Steve Breaston is the 3rd wide receiver, so when you see him in there, the Cardinals are going 3 wide receivers, but this guy during the regular season caught 77 passes. So you say, what kind of a passing offense is the Cardinals? It's basically a 3 wide receiver offense.
All 3 wideouts over 1,000 yards. And they gave him a first down. They looked at the chains, moved them. It's a first down. Here's Hightower right now, up to the 39 on our first marker of the game. Terry McCauley, who reffed the
Holding, offense number 69. 10-yard penalty, first down.
McCauley was the referee in the Philadelphia-New England game in Jacksonville 4 years ago. That's Mike Gandy, the left tackle, who's going to be in the crosshairs all night.
Right, because he's blocking James Harrison most of the time, and James Harrison was the defensive player of the year. He didn't hold Harrison on that play. You're going to see right there, it's against James. He's holding James Ferrier right there. But he does have his work cut out for him with James Harrison.
All night, pick your poison.
This is the old 2-4-5, 2 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, 5 defensive backs.
And a fumble as Edgerrin James took the handoff. They spread it out, and then they gave it to James on a delay, and he's able to recover his own fumble. Brett Kiesel was able to knock it away, but they recover, and it will be 2nd down and 20. And Troy Polamalu, who wears contact lenses, is on the Pittsburgh sideline. So it got dislodged, and they work on Troy.
You can see that. That's against the quarterback when the running back just opens his arm, puts his hand there, and the quarterback has to slide it in. It looked like Kurt Warner short-armed it a little.
2nd and 20. And James starts to slip as he comes out of the backfield. Let's take a look at the Steelers' #1 ranked defense.
Aaron Smith, Northern Colorado.
Casey Hampton, Texas.
Brett Kiesel, BYU.
Lamar Woodley, Michigan. James Ferrier, Virginia.
Larry Foote, Detroit Pershing, Doughboys.
James Harrison, Kent State.
Ike Taylor, Swaggin.
Troy Polamalu, Southern California.
Brian Clark, Louisiana. Brian McFadden, Florida State.
Polamalu back in. By the way, Swaggin is not an institution of higher learning. Ike just telling you he's got swagger.
Right, and he's going to be on Larry Fitzgerald most of this game.
He better have swagger tonight. 3rd and 17, and that pass is thrown into the face of a blitz and incomplete, intended for Anquan Bolden. And the pressure put on that time by Lawrence Timmons, number 94.
Right, and that's the thing. One of the things that the Cardinals like to do against the pressure or the blitz is get the ball out there quickly on a screen pass. They were trying to get it out to Anquan Bolden, and they just didn't get it there. because the Steelers realize that too. They know that when they come with the pressure, then force or press those wide receivers for that speed screen.
Ben Graham, the first Aussie to ever play in a Super Bowl, started the year with the Jets, kicked in one game for the Saints. That was a game in London, and then winds up in the Super Bowl with Arizona. He's been bothered by a groin pull. That's a bad kick. It's fielded at the 26. And Holmes brings it back to the 31-yard line. Pittsburgh ball at the 31-yard line. Willie Parker is the running back, and Roethlisberger will take this snap out of the shotgun. Fakes the inside give, works it to Holmes on the outside, gets a block out there from Miller, stays inbounds, and Santonio Holmes has been a big play guy in postseason with a gain of 25 yards.
That's what happens here. It's the same thing that the Cardinals are trying to do is they see the blitz or they feel the blitz, they fake and just get it out there quickly, a quick screen to the outside to your guy that can make big plays with his feet. I mean, Santonio Holmes is their big play guy. He's their speed guy. He's their punt returner, and that's all that is. Throw it out there to him quickly and let him be a punt returner.
The boys mixing it up back at the 40-yard line for a couple of moments while we were in replay after the play. The ball will be spotted at the 44-yard line of the Arizona Cardinals. So Roethlisberger, who started Super Bowl 40 nervously and admits to it and didn't play very well overall with a 23 rating, starts tonight's game 3 out of 3 for 84 yards.
Well, one thing that will get rid of those nerves is get in a rhythm, and Ben has gotten in a pretty good rhythm.
Right off the bat. Play action, buys him a ton of time. He's going to go deep, very deep, and the ball floats and is knocked away at the last minute by the very speedy Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie after Nate Washington had gotten out in front. He had beaten him, and the ball just hung.
Right, and that's why, you want speed in your corner, and this is what you call makeup speed. He is beaten, as you say, the ball is in the air, but watch Rodgers-Cromartie come and get it. That is a heck of a defensive play because he made up about 5 yards. And Nate Washington has speed also.
Ooh.
Sorry, Fitzgerald. That one was too close.
Yep. Rodgers-Cromartie, the #1 draft choice out of Tennessee State. From the 44-yard line, they send it out to Holmes quickly, and the tackle is made there by Rodgers-Cromartie as we take a look at the Arizona D.
Antonio Smith, Oklahoma State.
Brian Robinson, Fresno State.
Darnell Dockett, FSU. Bertrand Berry, Notre Dame. Chike O'Keefe, West Lafayette Red Devils.
Gerald Hayes, Patterson, New Jersey.
Carlos Dansby, Woodlawn High School.
Rod Hood, Auburn University.
Adrian Wilson, North Carolina State.
Antrell Roll, the U. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Tennessee State.
Dockett, Dansby, and Wilson would be 3 key guys. Linebacker and defensive back. Now 3rd and 5, and Mewelde Moore comes into the game, and that's Antonio Smith coming off the line and saying that he was induced.
Right, the Cardinals were in a 3-man line, and they had 6 defensive backs on that defense.
False start. Offense. Number 62. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
That's the center, Justin Hartwig.
It looked like they were going to blitz. It was a 3-2-6. Looked like Hartwig was getting ready to pick up a blitz. Here he is. You see he's talking. He has his left point. He's pointing out who's the Mike, who's going to come. And then he made that little move there, and Antonio Smith just took off.
Now 3rd down and 10. 3 down linemen for the Cards. How many will they send as they show blitz? And they're coming. And Roethlisberger is able to step up and extend the play. And he comes back the other way. And he almost falls down. And then he gets it off, and it is caught at the 33-yard line by Heath Miller. And that is something that Roethlisberger does so well. Every time you think the play is over, it's not.
That's Ben Roethlisberger just being Superman. He is so big and strong, and you can blitz him and you can get to him, but you don't get him to the ground. And this is what he does when he scrambles. He's not looking to run. He's looking to run, reset himself, continue to look upfield and find a receiver. See, he sets a pocket out there, then he comes back, sets a pocket over there, and finally finds Heath Miller.
Wildcat right now. Willie Parker's going to take the snap. Parker out of the Wildcat. Breaks the tackle in the backfield and then cuts it back and gets just about back to the line of scrimmage. Gerald Hayes, the middle linebacker, almost stopped him for a 4-yard loss. But on a 3rd and 10, Roethlisberger not only escaping and then jumping, spinning all the way around, finding the receiver for 11 yards.
Right, and that's very difficult to coach. And Bruce Arians, the offensive coordinator, knows that. But I'm very impressed with the way he's calling this game. It's very good pace he has. He has great mixture. He's going from 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, 3 wide receivers, mixing up his formations, mixing up his snap count. On that first drive, they went a lot on quick count, first sound.
2.5 to go in the quarter. Parker sets up in the slot. Miller comes over on the left side. On 2nd and 10, it's dumped off on a middle screen to Miller, and he gets banged down, but not until he picks up a first down. Calais Campbell, the rookie out of Miami, makes the stop and the move the chains.
And again, the job that Ben Roethlisberger's doing and that Bruce Arians is doing and calling these plays, this is just a screen pass to your tight end. You just let him block, go like he's blocking, and then get in behind his tackle.
Miller, their 3rd leading receiver during the regular season, 48 catches, 3 touchdowns.
The closer they get to the goal line, the better Ben likes them.
Willie Parker over the right side, finds the hole and gets dragged down, but not until he picks up 9 yards, tackled there by Adrian Wilson. Sean McHugh led the block, and at this point in the game, Pittsburgh has outgained Arizona 131 yards to 13.
Yeah, when you get Sean McHugh in there, that means that you have 3 tight ends in there. And you just watch your center right here. He makes a good block. Hartwick, that's a tough block to make when you have a guy on your outside shoulder to the side you're running to, and you can whip your body around and hook him. That is a big play by Justin Hartwick.
2nd and a short 2. Quick pass, slant, Holmes. That's a first down. Rogers Cromartie making the tackle, and so Pittsburgh knocking on the door again. They got inside the 1. A challenge by Wisenhunt was upheld. They settled for 3.
That whole thing about Ben Roethlisberger and being nervous last time and maybe being nervous this time, there's nothing to it, is there? Look at that.
Nothing like experience. He's been to the rodeo before.
Right, and as Mike Tomlin said, he's a different guy. He's a different guy now than he was the last time they were here.
Ball at the 8. Washington, they take it to him, they give it to Parker. And Parker takes the ball to the 5-yard line. On Trell Roll, the safety, making the tackle as the clock ticks down to the end of the first quarter. And Roethlisberger says, let's go the other way. Let's go toward the south. We're done with the north. They picked up 3 points in the quarter. They'll have a 2nd and goal when we come back. That is the end of the first quarter in Super Bowl 43. Al Michaels, John Madden, Tampa, Super Bowl 43. Look at Roethlisberger. Those were his total numbers in Super Bowl 40, and tonight a tremendous first quarter, John.
Well, he started right off here with that bootleg and hitting Hines Ward. And he comes back and watch the hit that he takes, but he throws a perfect pass to Heath Miller. Now this is something. This is just Ben Roethlisberger here. One of the things the Cardinals are trying to do is tackle his throwing arm. They tried that. It didn't work.
So now it's 2nd and goal. We start the second quarter. Nobody behind Roethlisberger. And he hits Miller over the middle, and Miller's going to get stood up at about the 1.5-yard line as he runs right into Gerald Hayes. And so now it's going to be 3rd and goal again, and this is the 2nd skirmish we've had thus far tonight.
Usually in a skirmish, you'll find Hines Ward right in the middle of it. Yeah. For a wide receiver, I think he's the scrappiest guy there is. I mean, he loves to do all those physical things. I mean, he'll block a defensive end, he'll block a linebacker. If there's a fight to be fought, he wants to be part of it.
The old boxing term, pound for pound. Maybe the toughest in the league.
Yeah, if we were choosing to do something, I think I'd take Hines Ward first. 3rd
down and goal. They go to the short yardage guys. Gary Russell is the short yardage man. Look at those numbers. And then he was faced with a 3rd and goal in the first quarter. Originally got in, but it was challenged, and the challenge was upheld. So now here we are again on a 3rd down and goal at the 1-yard line.
They're spending a lot of time on this play. I mean, they talked about it, and they went back in the huddle, and he went over and talked about it again. And you'd have to think it's a pass play, wouldn't you?
Well, he has 150 to 200 plays on that wristband, so maybe they needed some help with the Dewey Decimal System or something to find it.
Yeah, just imagine what the print looks like on that.
You better have Ted Williams' eyesight. 3rd and goal. Russell puts his head down. Does he get into the end zone? He does. Touchdown.
He goes right between right guard Darnell Stapleton and right tackle Willie Colon right here. They get off well. They get a good double team. They get a push. They push Dockett right back into the end zone. Here's where it all starts, right here. They get him up, then they get him going back, and then they get a touchdown.
Parker's their regular back. Moore is their 3rd down back, and Russell is the guy on short yardage. Reed for the extra point. And that kick is just inside the right upright. Good looking shot. Tonight's aerial coverage brought to you by Bud Light, downtown Tampa, Florida. Raymond James Stadium, just up Dale Mabry, and the site of Super Bowl 43. And tonight, 12.5 minutes of possession time for Pittsburgh on those 2 drives, and Arizona has had the ball for 5 plays.
And when you only have the ball for 5 plays, obviously you're not going to get in any kind of a rhythm, and that's what Kurt Warner is. He's a rhythm quarterback, and he hasn't gotten started yet. And on this drive, I think he better get started.
Reed's kick. Arrington moves over to his right, and then he drops it, picks it back up, gets up past the 10-yard line, and is taken down at the 17-yard line. Pittsburgh seeking an unprecedented 6th Super Bowl title. Cardinals in the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Start at the 17-yard line. James, the running back, he's carried twice for 3 yards. Warner, good pocket, throws, incomplete, leading his tight end a little too much. That's Leonard Pope. Kurt Warner's stats for the season, again, he was in competition with Matt Leinart at the onset of the season, and there he was, 2nd in completion percentage, 2nd in yards to Drew Brees, 30 TD passes, 3rd in rating.
That time he looked like he was trying to get the ball to Larry Fitzgerald deep, and then he had to come across later to the crosser. Larry Fitzgerald had nothing out here in the bottom of the screen.
We saw Matt Leinart, Heisman Trophy winner, backup quarterback to Warner. 4-man rush. The pass goes to the outside, and they go to James, and James very close to a 1st down. So they go to Pope and to James on the team that has 3 wide receivers, each with 1,000 yards.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, eventually he's going to get to those guys, and I think he tried a little running. Usually if they throw the ball to the outside, it's usually to the running back. Most of the wide receivers catch inside stuff. They throw very little outs to their wide receivers.
2nd 1st down for Arizona. Pittsburgh has 8. Terrell Smith, they bring him in as the fullback. Fake to James, off play action. Warner steps up, throws, goes to James again. So they fake it to him and then go back to him. He's covered by the linebacker, James Farrier. And that time, Brett Kiesel came in and put a lick on Warner as he released.
And that's the thing, that pass protection is going to be a thing. And Kurt Warner says that what he likes to do is when he's trying to go deep to have an outlet. So that's what James was, as the outlet. Good pass protection here in Lamar Woodley. You know that you have to get him blocked also. We talk about Harrison, but if you pay too much attention to Harrison, you're going to get some from Woodley. And that time they got it from Brett Kiesel.
Plant job. Hightower is the back. 2nd and 5. Warner under pressure, throws to the outside. That's a nice catch made by Steve Breaston. He's the number 3 guy. Fitzgerald is the megastar. Bolden is terrific, and Breaston kind of sneaks his way through. Second-year man out of Michigan, 5th-round draft choice last year.
And that's what he's throwing here. He's throwing against the 6 defensive backs. And here is just a quick out to Breaston. You know, we talk about James Harrison and that matchup over there on Mike Gandy. Now they're going to have a guard step out and help Gandy. He's not going to be all by himself down there in Harrison.
From the 39-yard line, Adrian James. And again, it's the lowest rated running attack during the regular season. James Farrier and Brett Kiesel are in on the tackle, and Arizona has begun this game with their first 4 rushing plays gaining 4 yards.
And you know what'll probably be the thing that they'll get to here is you pass on running downs and you run on passing downs, because you know when they get in that 2-man line, 6 defensive back, the Steelers, I think that would be a lot easier running than this base defense that they're in now. This is darn near impossible to gain yardage running on.
Offensive coordinator, you saw a shot of him, Todd Haley. Now they swing it to the outside, and this is caught by James. And James to the 49-yard line across midfield, breaking out of a Troy Polamalu tackle. That's a gain of 11 yards and another first down for the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's what the Cardinals like to do, is they bring their ends in. You see how they narrow down the split there, and then if you come inside with them, if your coverage comes there, then they're going to slip the back outside of them. Troy Polamalu, you're not going to see a lot of those. I mean, Troy Polamalu, usually when he gets his sights on you, he's going to get you. That was a good move there by Adrian James.
James has caught 3 passes tonight. Fitzgerald has been blank to this point. Here's Hightower, the rookie out of Richmond, with some tough running to the 46-yard line. Polamalu coming in, and then Larry Foote.
Right, and this is going to be a holding penalty against the Cardinals. I like to get Hightower to the outside running and Adrian James running inside.
Ben Patrick, the tight end, I think is the guy who's going to get called here. And it is Patrick, the tight end. And that's the second holding call now in the game against the offensive line. Hightower stays in to flank Warner out of the gun. A 3-by-1 set. 3 receivers to the right. They put Hightower in the slot, send him into the pattern, and the pass is juggled and caught by Steve Breaston. Breaston to the 46-yard line. It was 1st and 20. Breaston is able to pick up on that play 13 yards. It'll be 2nd down and 7.
You know, and you talk to Kurt Warner, and this is what he wants to do. This is an empty backfield. Spread out the offense, spread out the defense. Just read the defense and get it to the open guy.
Steve Breaston grew up just outside of Pittsburgh, loved the Steelers, dreamed of playing in the Super Bowl with the Steelers. He plays against the Steelers. A ton of time. Warner surveys, throws, and he hits Anquan Bolden, who's inside the 10, and he gets taken down at the 2-yard line. Well, sooner or later, Bolden and Fitzgerald had not caught a single pass. It took 20 minutes, but here it is for 45 yards.
And Kurt Warner can still get the deep ones when he gets this kind of protection. To me, it's a little play-action pass, but look at the protection. Look at the time that he has to look, to read, to find the open guy, and then step up and throw it to Anquan Bolden. Bolden kind of runs an option route here, starts to the inside, gets the defense to come to the inside, then goes back out.
Ran away from McFadden. Hightower is the back, and Warner, as he's been prone to do recently, starts to stumble, and then the pass is caught in the end zone by Ben Patrick, the tight end. Kurt Warner in every postseason game has been getting tangled up with his offensive lineman, but that time he's able to maintain his balance and hits Patrick for the score.
And it's usually he gets stepped on by a center, and it's happened in every game that we've seen so far in the playoffs. But Kurt Warner is able to come out of the out of the play action pass and make a perfect throw.
Ben Patrick did not catch a touchdown pass during the regular season. Caught the two-point conversion against Philadelphia at the end of that last drive. Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator, going over that last drive with Warner, an 83-yard drive with just one rush and 8 pass plays, 3 of those early on to Edgerrin James. Rackers to send the ball to the 5-yard line. Collected there by Gary Russell. Russell to the outside, and he's run out of bounds at the 22. And John, we were trying to figure out this week with Warner in postseason whether he was just being klutzy or whether he was tripping over his offensive lineman's feet.
Yeah, and it's in the center most of the time. See, he keeps his left foot up there on running plays or on play action passes. And and the center has a problem. See, if the guy's on his left shoulder, he'll step on him with his left foot. If the guy's on the right shoulder, he'll step on him with his right foot. See, now he's going left. Now watch his left foot right there come back and step on Kurt Warner's foot. You think at some point they would say, Kurt, put that left foot back a little, especially when the nose is shaded to that side.
And of all things, the results in the touchdown. And then on a roll to the right, it is Carey Davis for a gain of about 5 yards. You know, John, it's every year we talk about teams and before the season starts, and you're always saying, well, this team figures to face this team, and maybe it was the Giants and the Cowboys and the NFC, and we talked about the big three in the AFC. Pittsburgh was about the 4th or 5th choice consensus-wise, and Arizona was about 6th or 7th in the NFC.
I don't even know that Arizona was mentioned. You know, the teams that you would say, well, who's going to be in this Super Bowl? And then Pittsburgh had, you know, the toughest schedule. And like you said, you have New England, you have Indy, you have San Diego, and then maybe after those guys, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers.
2nd and 4. Parker slips away from Wilson, and instead of a loss, and then Wilson tracks him down. So Adrian came into the backfield. That's how quick he is, and he's the dominant force on that Arizona defense. And then after the tackle was escaped, back he goes to catch him from behind.
You know, he really is a linebacker in the number of a defensive back and the body of a defensive back. I mean, he is a big guy. I mean, he's 6'3", and when he's up close to the line of scrimmage, he really becomes the 4th linebacker, and he plays like a linebacker. He does not play like a defensive back.
6'3" and 230, which means he's about 25 pounds more than Warner. Put down in the very low 2s. 1st and 10. Roethlisberger, the pump fake. Then he's going to take a shot down the field, and it's Rogers Cromartie who got his hands on it. Outstanding coverage on Santonio Holmes. It'll be 2nd and 10.
Rogers Cromartie's doing a heck of a job. They thought they could get a double move on him, and that's what they do. You see, Holmes is going to come out, and then he's going to run and out and up. Cromartie started to take a little half a step there, but he is so quick in his turn and his reaction. He got back and knocked that ball out of there. He's made 2 great plays so far.
He's so quick, he started to slip on that play and still caught up.
That's when you know you have speed.
Very.
When you can slip and beat again.
2nd and 10. Off the fake. Set up the screen, but there's no blocking right there. And the pop is made by Carlos Dansby on Willie Parker. You know, the Cardinal defense, they don't get a lot of national television exposure. You don't hear about a lot of these guys, but there was very little doubt in the voice of Clancy Pendergast, the defensive coordinator, the other day when we talked about his MVP. He says, Carlos Dansby just does so much for us.
Well, you can see him call the defenses, so you know that he's the quarterback of the defense, and he's not only, you know, a pretty good pass rusher, he's a very good tackler, but he's very good in pass defense. You see him back here, he lines up deeper than most linebackers on passing down.
He's 8 yards back here. 3rd and 12. Ben, the flag is thrown. Roethlisberger throws. That's Holmes. And for the moment, they have a first down at the 41. But when you see a flag come in from that angle, it's almost always offensive holding.
Holding, offense, number 68. 10-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Chris Kemoeatu, the left guard.
Right, and it was way back on the other side. Kemoeatu is a left guard, and Ben scrambled out to the right. So the holding was way away from the play. Here's Chris Kimiato right here. You see him, he looks so, there, right there. He got the old arm around the neck on Darnell Dockett. Dockett's a guy that is tough to block, too. You say, who's going to get the penetration on that front line of the Cardinals? It's usually going to be Dockett.
A lot of very key plays during the playoffs in particular. And Terry McCauley will make the call again here. It's a 3rd and 22 that's going to go to a
encroachment defense, number 90. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Go to a 3rd and 17. That's Dockett.
Maybe that's how he gets so much penetration. He jumps early. But, you know, he's one of those guys when you first watch film and, you know, people flash in front of you or flash away they're playing. Darnell Dockett is a guy that flashed to me when I first started watching this Cardinal defense. He'll play nose tackle as he is now in the 3-man line. And then he plays what they call the 3 technique most of the time, the outside shoulder of the guard. But right now, he's this guy right here.
His forced fumble in the Atlanta wildcard game turned that game early in the second half. 3rd and 17, a little dump off to Moore. And he'll get taken down at the 33-yard line. And there is Dockett in on the coverage as well with Rogers Cromartie.
That's one of the ways that he flashed, is he would start on a pass rush, and then if the ball's thrown, he will always turn and run. It can be completed 10 yards down the field, and Darnell Dockett will end up being down there.
Mitch Berger to punt. Steve Breston ran a punt back for a touchdown when these two teams met in the regular season last year. The veteran Berger with a line drive kick. Breston fields it at the 23-yard line. Breston coming around the corner, up past the 30, the 40, into Steeler territory, and all the way to the Pittsburgh 42-yard line. It's a 43-yard punt by Berger and a 35-yard return, and when you kick it that low, you're normally going to set up the opportunity for somebody like Breston to run it back.
The interesting thing, I think it was supposed to go to the right. You see how Breston starts there to his right? It was good coverage to that side. Back on this side, the Steelers are out of their lane. So he started to the right where it was supposed to go, where he had the blocking, and then he reverse field, got a good block right there, and then he was able to break in the open.
Monty Beisel, the backup linebacker, special teams star. Now Warner's going to hand the ball to James, a little stiff arm, and James comes to the short side of the field and gets run out of bounds after a nice gain forced out by James Farrier. Edgerrin James, remember he went to Indianapolis in 1999. That enabled Indianapolis to trade Marshall Faulk to the Rams. Faulk and Warner team up for a Super Bowl title, go to another Super Bowl, and now we come full circle. James and Warner try to win a title.
I always thought when the Colts lost Edgerrin James that was going to be a great big loss, because not only was he a heck of a runner, but he was a great pass protector for Peyton Manning.
2nd and 4, double tight end set for the Cards. Warner with a flag to be thrown, and Kurt's pass is incomplete, and McCauley throwing the flag. The pressure was put on by Farrier.
Personal foul, chop block, offense number 32. 15-yard penalty, 2nd down.
On James.
Well, it was a blitz, and he had to help. Now, if a guy is engaged and you come and chop him, that's illegal. See, he can block and he can even chop, but if the guy is engaged right here, he cannot because of the engagement there. See, if it were just a single block, he could do that, but they were coming on the blitz, trying to get pressure on Kurt Warner right up the middle.
Foot's the guy that got chopped. James now on the bench on 2nd and long. 2nd and 19. Hightower is in the game. The fake to him. Warner steps up and he's going to get sacked at the 45-yard line. Coming in from the side and behind is Lamar Woodley. He's the bookend, of course, because you got James Harrison as the defensive player of the year, and on the other side comes number 56.
That's what Mike Tomlin is smiling about, because he knew that this could happen. He said that he told Woodley, he said, if they want to turn all their protection to the other side and you get one-on-one, you have to beat it and you have to come up with big plays for us.
5 sacks in postseason for Woodley. Now it's 3rd and 22. And again, Fitzgerald has not caught a ball. He's caught 5 touchdown passes in the playoffs, and they've all come in the first half. Tonight, nothing. There he is. Taylor is on him. And Arizona's going to take a timeout.
Charge timeout, Arizona.
3rd and 22 when we come back. 2:59 to go in the half. When the #1 defense plays in the Super Bowl, the result is normally terrific, and that's the case here. The Steelers led the league in defense. The Bucs beat the Raiders in 2002. The Packers won their Super Bowl after leading the league in defense. Of course, you had the '85 Bears, and there is Dick LeBeau at 71, his 50th year in the league. There was some speculation about maybe time for retirement, but he told his team the other day, no way, you're not getting me out of here.
If you know Dick LeBeau, he's 71 going on 48.
Well, his mom is, what, 95? Good genes.
Right, he has great genes and he has a great mind, and players love him. You know, I mean, he lets guys do things, puts them in positions to do different things, and give illusions on defense. And the things that he does on defense, I really admire.
He rushes 4 on a 3rd and 22, and the pass is dropped by James on the outside. So Arizona with a nice start to this drive, and then it's stymied near midfield, and they will punt with 2:55 to go in the second quarter.
One thing that Steeler defense is giving up, though, is those flats. I mean, of course, that was 3rd and forever, but I mean, that whole time, they're covering those inside guys. When they run inside, like Fitzgerald goes inside and hooks and slants, they're really collapsing on that and leaving the flats open.
Graham with a sore groin, and you've got a false start here, which is going to back Arizona up.
False start, offense number 48. 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
Graham got hurt. They were practicing before the NFC Championship game, and they had him sliding out with the ball and punting on the runs. He got hurt, and you could see him every time he punted against Philadelphia. He'd punt, and then he would really grimace. He'd look to the side and grimace. This is his second punt right now of the game, and it is taken at the 16-yard line, and great coverage right there. Going down the field. Steelers, the defensive backs huddle, and what a job they've done on Fitzgerald. If there is a stunning statistic to this point in the game, it's the fact he has no catches. Bolden has 1. It was good for 45 yards.
I think the Cardinals will learn to take advantage of that, though, because they're really loading up defensively on Larry Fitzgerald.
Noel Moore starts as the running back from the 16-yard line. And Moore gets it before Roethlisberger almost got tackled in the backfield. And at the 22-yard line, the stop is made. That was Travis LeBoy, who came in so quickly around the right defensive end side that he almost got Roethlisberger before he handed the ball off.
LeBoy is right here, and he just makes a heck of a move. Of course, it looked like it was going to be a screen pass, so the tackle, Max Starks, had started to go out to the left.
And he's playing with a torn biceps. It's going to require surgery. 55 LeBoy. 2nd down and 4 from the 22-yard line. Ben protected well, but then has that deflected and intercepted at the 33-yard line. Carlos Dansby with the deflection and the pick.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Carlos Dansby being very good in pass defense.
No coach's challenges allowed in the last 2 minutes. Roethlisberger this year was more prone to having passes deflected. He had only 3 last year. He had 9 this season. Robinson deflected it. Dansby picked it. Warner starts in the 34. 2 timeouts for Arizona.
The Steelers have to watch out for gadget plays by the Cardinals in this area of the field.
Warner rolling. Running out of room, and then they'll throw the ball out of bounds. It'll be 2nd down and 10. Also coming up will be the Gatorade halftime report. And Mr. Bob Costas and the gang are in the pirate ship, Buccaneer Cove, here at Raymond James Stadium. Bob and the Pirates. Hopefully none of them from Somalia, but we got a lot of folks up there with them.
Yeah, if you read all those names, it would be halftime before you finish.
Right. Second and 10 from the 34-yard line. Tim Hightower comes into the slot. 5 receivers into the pattern. Warner hit as he throws, and that one is almost picked. Intended for Fitzgerald. Lamar Woodley came in and decked Warner as he got rid of it.
You know, this is what Kurt Warner likes, though. It was an empty backfield. So the only protectors he has right here. So if they bring an extra guy from one side, like you see Woodley come here, he's going to have to take that hit. He's going to have to get rid of the ball before he gets there and take that hit. But he knows that. He knows where the protection is, and that's what he wants.
3rd and 10. 3 wide against the nickel. A little dump off goes to Hightower. Hightower with a nice slip move to the outside and to the 23 and a first down. He breaks away from Ike Taylor, and by doing so, turns what would have been a 4th down into a 1st down.
You know, what they're doing is they're so worried about Larry Fitzgerald when he goes inside that they're letting these flats go to the outside. You see, they're going here and they're doubling Fitzgerald, and they have everyone out there. And then when you get the running back, whether it's Hightower or it's Edgerrin James or whoever, then that's going to be wide open.
From the 24. They give the ball to Hightower again. Hightower, a 5th-round draft choice out of Richmond. Aerial coverage being brought to you tonight by Bud Light. Downtown Tampa, gorgeous night. Temperature right now, low 60s. No threat of rain. Ben Roethlisberger watching to see what happens after that turnover. James and Hightower now both coming to the backfield after that Arizona timeout. The Cardinals have 1 timeout left in the half. 2nd and 10. Warner throws, and finally number 11, Fitzgerald, makes the catch. Sooner or later, it took 29 minutes and a few seconds, but Fitzgerald makes the catch. It's 11 yards and a 1st down.
Well, they put Edgerrin James out in the flat that time, and they come off on him in the flat, and in doing so, they finally let Fitzgerald get away from a double.
And then Arizona comes quickly up to the line of scrimmage, and Pittsburgh has to take a timeout, their 2nd.
See, they've been letting Edgerrin James go in the flat and doubling out here in Fitzgerald. Now you see it here now. He starts inside, and they come off. You see, they come off on Edgerrin James, and then when they did that, that's what the Cardinals were looking for. That if you're going to come off like this, we're going to throw it to Fitzgerald. If you're going to stay on Fitzgerald, we'll get the ball out to Edgerrin James.
Interesting thing is they lined Polamalu up on him and had Ike Taylor playing almost in a safety spot.
Right, it's an inverted cover too. You know, usually it's the corner up on the wide receiver and the safety deep. When they put Polamalu up, they invert it, put the safety short and the corner deep.
Warner in postseason in the red zone has been fabulous.
And one of the fabulous things that he does is throw to Larry Fitzgerald, who outjumps everyone.
Fitzgerald with 5 touchdowns in postseason, all in the first half. 43 seconds. Warner from the gun sends Hightower into the slot. 5 receivers go into the pattern. Over the middle, the catch is made at the 5-yard line. That's Bolden, who gets banged down by Timmons. Up they come. Clock is running. Each team with 1 timeout. Half a minute left in the half. 2nd and 3. Swing it to the outside. Here's Bolden. He's going to get the 1st down. That's going to take it to the 2-yard line. Clock continues to roll. They look over to the bench, and Wisenhunt will take his final timeout. So 18 seconds as they burn their final timeout. And it will be 1st down and goal at the 2.
We were talking earlier about what they were doing to Larry Fitzgerald, and they weren't going to let him get the ball. They weren't going to let him make any big plays. You see Polamalu is up there. That's that inverted cover 2, and the corner's over the top. Here now it's just the corner on him and the safety over the top. See here he has a double team there, and Polamalu but the thing they were able to do is get the ball in the flats. Now when they come off on the flat, look at this, when they come off here, then Larry Fitzgerald is going to be wide open. So that's the bind that the Cardinals have put the Steelers in. And if you give Kurt Warner an open guy, he's not predetermined. He's going to find that open guy, read it quickly, and get it to him quickly.
He's got Bolden and Fitzgerald to the left. He's got Breaston to the right. 18 seconds.
Well, they can pick down here.
From the gun, Steelers show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away, and it's picked off at the goal line. There's a flag thrown on the run back. James Harrison to run it back, and Harrison is past midfield. Harrison going down the sideline. Harrison still on his feet. Harrison is going to go all the way and waiting for the official to get there. Touchdown is signaled. A flag is down on the run back at the 9-yard line.
Prior to the pass, personal foul, grasping the face mask. Offense number 74. The foul occurred during the last time down. The touchdown counts.
Unbelievable. Harrison completely gassed. The call is on Reggie Wells. It's a 100-yard interception return.
Look at him. You know that you have to protect against James Harrison because he's such a great pass rusher. On that play, he faked like he was going to rush the passer, and he dropped back into the lane and then made this run. Unbelievable.
It's the longest play in Super Bowl history. It's a 100-yard interception return. The question, too, is he in? Remember, there's no challenge. There's no challenge. It has to come from the booth. Wow. And they will look at it. I guarantee you that. The clock has expired. Here's Fitzgerald. He's coming in. Where does he land? He's landing on Fitzgerald's leg with the ball. Breaston comes back in.
Not only a great play by James Harrison, but a great call by Dick LeBeau, because who would think in that situation that instead of rushing your best pass rusher, you would drop it
will be reviewed.
So the play is being reviewed. This is amazing. For the first half to end like this, the Cardinals are going to go in to take the lead and worst come up with a tie. And then what a run back by Harrison for a linebacker to do what he did, no matter what happens at the end here and what the result will be. That was incredible.
Let's watch it again. Here you can see Kurt Warner is looking to that side. He's going to throw the slant. He thinks Fitzgerald has it, but James Harrison drops back in that lane. Then James Harrison runs like James Brown. As you say, the knee couldn't be down because when his knee went down, if we're down on anything, it was down on Larry Fitzgerald.
Right. And that could be what determines whether he got in or not. All he has to do is get to the front part of the goal line. You see Fitzgerald going down. Where's the ball? Does the ball hit the ground before it gets to the goal line? Again, going back to what we talked about before, they can use composite replays. They can look, even though you don't see any definitive replay from one camera or angle, you can make a composite out of it.
I think a guy makes a play like that and a run like that, you have to give him a touchdown. That to me is a touchdown.
If they don't, that would be.
Now they can look at it inside out and upside down, but James Harrison got a touchdown there.
So think of it this way. It's either a touchdown or it's the end of the half. They don't even have another play. So if they rule the play over, the half is over. And it would be a 3-point game instead of going on a 10-point game. One more time.
You look at a guy who's really enjoying his oxygen.
After review,
Here he is,
the
right
ruling on
here.
the field stands. Touchdown.
They have signaled, you can tell by the crowd reaction, that it is a touchdown. Because the ball is on Fitzgerald's leg and is not down on the ground as the defensive player of the year gets into the end zone. And now the extra point from Reed. An amazing turn of events, and the only good news for the Cardinals as they go to the locker room is they will get the ball at the start of the second half because they deferred after winning the coin flips. Go to Alex Flanagan. Alex.
Coach, you have the opportunity to score. Instead, they do. What happened from your perspective on that last play?
Well, obviously we made a bad throw and we didn't get him down. In that situation, you got to get him down, especially with so little time left on the clock.
Now that you go in, how do you handle that momentum shift?
Well, we responded to being down once already, so we get the ball coming out the second half. We got to do something with it positive.
All right, Coach Al, back up to you.
All right, thank you, Alex. And again, the ruling stood. It was a touchdown because the ball wound up on Fitzgerald's leg before it hit the ground. And back we come to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, halftime. Super Bowl 43, 17-7. John, that was an epic play. I mean, that was just one of the greatest moments in the history of the Super Bowl. Obviously, clearly it depends on what's going to happen here tonight, whether that's the game-turning play. But Harrison, after the pick, he runs through the entire state of Arizona to get to the end zone.
I know, and it was a great call by defensive coordinator Dick LeBeau. You know, he kind of saved that one. He was waiting for the slant down there in the goal line. So he takes Harrison, and you'll see him. He'll start up like he's going to pass rush, and then he drops right into that lane where Bolden is running the slant. And you see Kurt Warner, he's looking all the way. That's where he's going. He's expecting Harrison to be a pass rusher, not a pass defender. And then after that interception, how about this great run? I mean, that was something that we're talking about. Wasn't a touch. A guy makes a play like that and a run like that, that has to be a TD.
So a little bit about James Harrison, the defensive player of the year. Football fans know him well. He was cut 4 times early in his career, 3 times by Pittsburgh, once by Baltimore. We're talking to him the other day, and we said, hey, look, you know, after each of those releases, what would you be doing if you hadn't been picked back up again? He said, I'd be flipping burgers.
You know, and the other funny thing about talking to James Harrison the other day, he was complaining about the number of times that he had to drop in this game plan.
Right.
And he goes, oh, they're not letting me rush or having me drop all the time. And then he drops, and it's the biggest play of the game so far.
So if you're Ken Wisenhunt, you go into the locker room, you have a long halftime, much longer than it would be in the regular season. Is that good, bad? Does it mean anything? And what do you say to the team?
Well, you hate to have too much time to stew in your own juices, and you know, and think about it, but maybe you can think about it and you can get over it and then get on to the next thing that you have to do. And that's what, you know, Ken Wisenhunt knows. We're going to get the ball now. We have some things going. We just have to keep those things going. And I think that, you know, we saw the slant and the flat and those things, and, you know, mix in a little run. The play action pass has been very effective. So they can do things against this Steeler defense, and obviously they just can't afford that big turnover.
Longest play of any kind, including kick returns in the history of the Super Bowl. And let's go to Andrea Kramer. Andrea.
Well, Mike Tomlin very curt at halftime. Now, the Steelers had 140 yards of offense in the first quarter, only 22nd in the second quarter. He said, though, we never got out of rhythm. We just have to execute, obviously. And we had one bad play, Ben Roethlisberger's interception.
So because they deferred, Arizona gets the kick, fielded at the goal line by Arrington. Arrington will get tripped up as he crosses the 20, falls forward to the 24-yard line. Now, Arizona's made wonderful adjustments at halftime, but so has Pittsburgh's defense. The Cardinals in the third quarter, the most points scored in the NFL in that quarter. Pittsburgh allowed the fewest points. 29 over 16 games is sensational.
Right, and one of the things that Tony Dungy brought up at halftime is Mike Tomlin is going to be upset with the lack of pass rush on Kurt Warner. That once Kurt Warner started getting the ball out of there, the Steeler defense didn't get a lot of pressure on him.
Edgerrin James in the backfield with Warner. Stepping up is Kurt. Over the middle, it's a short gain. Pass is caught there by Anquan Bolden. Bolden had a 45-yard reception in the first half. He's caught 4 now for 61 yards. And Bolden looks like he's favoring his shoulder here. Remember, he had the hamstring that cost him the Carolina game, came back, and now he comes off the inside receiver with a shoulder problem.
You're going to see him right there running a crossing pattern, and that's a big thing because we know about Larry Fitzgerald and Bolden. It's kind of a combination of the two is what the Cardinals need right now.
2nd and 6. They're going to run a draw here, and James is going to slip a tackle in the backfield and take it up to the 37-yard line. So Edgerrin James almost got taken down before he could get out of the backfield. Kiesel was there, picks up a first down, gain of 9.
Yeah, this is a play that they ran well in the playoffs so far, and again, it's against that nickel or dime defense, and I think that if you're going to run against the Steeler defense, you run against their nickel defense. It's a lot easier. You can get plays like that. Now they're back in base. This is tough to run against this defense.
From the 37. Edgerrin again. And that running game, which was dead last in the league in the regular season, coming alive in postseason. It's going to be important here. Larry Foote makes the tackle, gain of 7, 2nd and 3.
You know, anytime they have, Casey Hampton in here, they usually control that part of the line of scrimmage, and you don't get any running in there. Casey Hampton controlled his guy, but Edgerrin James just ran right by him. There's pretty good blocking there by the Cardinal line, because that is not easy to do.
Fitzgerald flanked wide to the right. They send Preston in motion to the other side of the formation. Edgerrin James again cuts it back, fights for a first down, may have it. Harrison is there to make the stop after Farrier knocked him down.
That's the thing that Harrison is so tough about. We know that he comes from this right side or weak side, and the pressure he's going to put on the quarterback, but he's also there for the cutback run. When you run away from him, he's going to run you down. And then when you start to cut back right there, you see where he is? He's right there to take that cut back.
First down signals McCauley.
And I see Bolden going back in now. I think that's big. I mean, had they lost Anquan Bolden, that would be a big loss for the Cardinals. Because somewhere what I would start doing, remember how they had the guy in the flat and his Edgerrin James? I'd try and get Bolden in the flat and have Fitzgerald run that same pattern and put them on the same side and get that combination going with the two of them.
Here's Bolden. Now Bolden's in the slot to the left. Preston is outside. Fitzgerald is wide to the right. James and Hightower are both in the backfield in the gun with Warner. And the pass is high, caught by Bolden. He had a leap to get it, and Bryant McFadden is right there. One other thing about Harrison is the star of the game, obviously, at this point. One of 14 kids, a commingled family. He has 7 brothers. He has 7 sisters. The oldest child is 51. As he told us the other day, he said, I have a lot of nephews older than me.
Right, and of the 14, he's the youngest. And I'll guarantee you, when you're the youngest of 14, you're going to be tough.
You answer that dinner bell in a hurry, don't you?
Oh, they all bully you there and get there. You don't get anything. And you have to fight for every bite you get.
Bolden and Fitzgerald coming out of the same spot on the right side. They swing it out to James across the 50, and then he's taken down here by Lawrence Timmons, a yard into Pittsburgh territory.
And that's one of the reasons that the Steelers are having a tough time getting to Kurt Warner is that they're giving that flat away so he can look downfield, and if there's nothing there, he can just go to the flat. You see Fitzgerald there and see what he takes. You see how he takes this whole thing there and then just opens up that outside.
Third and 6. Warner stepping up, gets hit as he throws, and the pass is incomplete. And that time it was James Farrier who came in to jar it. And they may have, now the question is, do they call it a completed pass or not?
I haven't seen him call it anything yet.
No, James Harrison is the guy who came up with the ball, and he has it. It's a turnover, and it's Harrison again. Before you have any heart attacks in Arizona, I think you're going to get a reversal here from what we see. It's challenged. Does Warner have control of the ball as he comes forward with it, trying to throw it, trying to pass it? This is not the Tuck rule. He's not trying to put it back in. He's trying to throw it. He's trying to get the pass away. He gets hit by Farrier. Here comes the call from McCauley after the challenge.
Yeah, that'll be an incomplete pass.
McCauley he will be making his way back out in a moment.
Because he did have control of it, and the arm was going forward, and
right.
Ball was in his hand.
That'll make it 4th and 6 instead of Pittsburgh getting the ball in Arizona territory.
You can see Harrison come around back, but James Farrier's the guy that made the hit.
After review, the quarterback had control of the football and his arm was going forward. It's an incomplete pass. It will be 4th and 6 on the Pittsburgh 49-yard line. Arizona is not charged with a timeout. Please set the game clock to 10 minutes, 59 seconds.
And this is something you almost never see. When they put the new challenge rules in, you get 2 challenges. If you win both challenges, you get a 3rd challenge. So Wisenhunt is 2 for 2 on 2 huge plays in this game, and he still has a challenge left.
Yeah, and the thing that he has to be worried about and talking about his team is about, pass protection and getting that nickel pass rush now, because, the Steelers are getting awfully close to Kurt Warner.
Santonio Holmes back to receive the Ben Graham punt. And the former Australian rules player has it fair caught at the 18-yard line. We're showing you Cuba Gooding Jr. Remember, he was in Jerry Maguire, and he played an Arizona Cardinal, and he became unconscious in the end zone. And I'll never forget, we were there the night. It was a Monday night game in 1995 on Christmas night when they did all of the scenics. And there he is with the Arizona Cardinals, really in the Super Bowl.
Were you in that movie with him?
I still got a $28 residual last week. From the 28-yard line, it's Willie Parker who slips down at the 15-yard line. Willie Parker, feet coming out from under him. Shaquille Kiefer and Adrian Wilson were there. Loss of 3, 2nd and 13.
Adrian Wilson, again, the safety right here. They bring him up right on the line of scrimmage, so they have 8 men up there. Now, if you run at him, he's going to make the play. Again, if you run away from him, he's there for the cutback.
Bent from the gun, you've got 4 receivers set to the left there, and he goes to the right side, which you're very often prone to do. They had a 4-by-1. A flag comes in at the end of the play. Holmes close to a first down, run out by Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie.
Anytime they can get Holmes on a single coverage and a man off him, they're going to get the ball to him quickly.
Personal foul, grasping the face mask. Defense number 29. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
So 7 plus 15, that's a 22-yard play.
Right, and here's the 4-man bunch over here to the left. So you try and get the coverage to come over to this side, and then you go over to the right or backside where you have a man-to-man, a single up, and you get it to Santonio Holmes, your good runner and speed guy.
At the 36-yard line, Roethlisberger was 12 of 15 for 136 in the first half. Willie Parker was the running back. Ben to the right side to the 42-yard line. That's the tight end making the catch with Carlos Dansby in on it. Matt Spaeth making the catch right there. The Steelers crowd thought it was Heath Miller.
No, and you haven't heard much about Hines Ward either. Remember, he caught that first one on that bootleg and hasn't caught a pass since. And you wonder, how healthy he is and how much of a decoy they're using Hines Ward at.
Ward with that one catch very early in the game for 38 yards. Parker He's going to get taken down about 2 yards short of the first down. Cheeky O'Keefer, 10th year in the league, makes the stop. Let's go to Andrea.
Well, I was talking to Bruce Arians before the game, and one of the things that he wanted to do was watch and see how long Hines could hold up. But the main thing he wanted him for was situational football, third down, red zone. And if there was a long drive, he wanted to pull him out. He definitely wanted to keep an eye on his snaps.
Of course, with that sprained MCL incurred during the Baltimore game in the AFC Championship. He's in here. It's third down and a long one.
This is a situation they'd want Hines Ward in there.
Pressure from the backside and the pass, and there's exactly the situation you want him in. Hines Ward, coverage pretty good by Roderick Hood, comes away with a huge smile as he's prone to do, and Ben returns the grin.
Well, that's what they do. I mean, Hines Ward is that third down possession guy. He's also the guy that Ben Roethlisberger is going to look to. And he sees, and he just runs a short out, enough for the first down, and he gets it. He wasn't in on the down before because the down before they had 3 tight ends in there. So that's one way they can get him out too. Look at the smile. This guy here just loves to play football. Adrian Wilson was saying he's a football player first and a receiver second.
Loves life. Roethlisberger chased. Look at Ben keeping the play alive and at least turning what would have been a 15-yard sack into maybe an incompletion, but he was in the pocket.
Roughing the passer.
Oh, and now you get roughing the passer.
Number 58. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Carlos Dansby, of all things, Roethlisberger keeps the play alive, gets rid of it, and then Dansby with a personal foul.
Yeah, two big penalties on this drive for the Cardinal defense. First one on Rogers Cromartie. Here you see the ball is gone, it's out of there, and then the hit by Dansby on Roethlisberger. Well, that was close.
Yeah, you know, you got a quarterback who's all over the place. You never know when the play is over, and now you're asking the guy to put the brakes on.
Right, and he's so big and strong that you have to run through him and you have to get him to the ground, and that's a tough thing. And then if he throws it, you have to pull up quickly. I don't think that was a bad one on Dansby.
2-yard loss. O'Keefe is there, taking down Willie Parker behind the line of scrimmage. You know, you used to think about the Steelers, and we know about defense and the tradition of running the ball. But here's Parker tonight. 3 yards a carry. Moore's carried once. That's it. They're averaging, are the Steelers, 2.4 yards per carry.
Well, I'll tell you, if they have this lead going into the fourth quarter, I know the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get a heavy dose of running.
More than halfway through the third quarter. 2nd and 11. Holmes on a quick flip. Cuts back inside to the 21-yard line. One right inside Rogers Cromartie. 15 yards and another first down.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something with Rogers Cromartie. Either he has to get up closer and hit him, or they have to give him help. Get a linebacker coming out underneath, because if he plays off like this, they'll just keep throwing the ball out there to Santonio Holmes. The Cardinals don't have a defensive answer for that.
First and 10.
And they have 3 tight ends again.
And this time it is Parker getting taken down there. It's Monty Beisel who comes in. Backup linebacker number 52 and Dansby as well. In on the stop, it's a gain of 1. 2nd and 9.
Bruce Arians again doing a good job of mixture here. You know, not only a mixture of plays, but mixture of personnel groups.
He was the wide receivers coach 3 years ago in the Super Bowl. Whisenhunt was the offensive coordinator. Whisenhunt goes to Arizona. Arians gets elevated when Tomlin gets the job. 2nd and 9. Parker again. Big hole inside the 10. And then he gets down to the 5-yard line. He's down. The ball came out, but not until the play was over. In behind the guard, Kemayatu, who pulls out and provides the escort.
You want to see a real good block by a tight end? Watch number 83 on this one, Al. Heath Miller. He's right here. I mean, he comes there and he just gets underneath the shoulder pads, picks him up, puts him on his back, and when you get a block like that, you have to have a pretty big run. I think the most underrated guy on this Pittsburgh offense is Heath Miller. He does more things than any one person.
Toss. Parker can't cut it back. Taken down by Carlos Dansby. It'll be 2nd down and goal with 4.5 to play in the 3rd quarter.
This is just kind of playing Steeler football here now. You know, getting a little more run here, and you use the play action, and you'll do those kinds of things. Here's Heath Miller again, you know, making that block. I mean, that's about as good a block as a tight end can make. And it's inside you're running on. I mean, it's where you have to get that edge. Heath Miller got it for him.
11th play of the drive. Good mix. They've had 6 rushes, 4 passes. The backfield is empty. Good pocket, and then it's dropped. Good protection. Heath Miller over the middle, couldn't hold on, and says to Ben, "That's on me."
Yeah, and it was on him. And you know, like we said earlier, the closer you get to the goal line, the more Ben Roethlisberger likes Heath Miller. But he does so many things for him. I mean, he blocks. He's the guy that, you know, they'll get him in the backfield. They'll have him wham. You know, I've seen him trap nose tackles. Every kind of block that there is to make, Heath Miller will and can make.
Big stop here for the Cardinal defense. Pulling to a field goal. It's a 2-possession lead for Pittsburgh. They score a touchdown. It's 3 possessions. Moreldi Moore is in the backfield with him. Roethlisberger tries to escape, and he just flings it into the area outside the 5-yard line because Bertrand Berry put the ball on, put the pressure on him. Now McCauley.
There's no foul for intentional grounding. The quarterback was out of the pocket. The ball got past the line of scrimmage. 4th down.
Close. It's close. Now you're outside what they call the tackle box. You line up the tackles. You see where you extend the line straight back. Was he outside that? Here it is. Take a look at it.
Right. It would have to be right here. It's already in there. The red line. Does he get outside the red line? Yes, he does.
Yep.
Just right outside. Yeah.
Good call. Got it right. 27-yard attempt, but a big stop for Arizona to keep it a 2-possession game. Reed for the field goal attempt. Made one earlier from 18. So 2 chip shots for him in this one tonight. Fitzgerald to put it down. And Reed's kick is good, but there's a flag down. There's a flag down. And a personal foul against Adrian Wilson.
3 big penalties against the Cardinals on this drive.
Huge.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Defense number 24 ran over the holder. Half the distance to the goal, automatic 1st down.
Gigantic call. He ran into Berger.
Yeah, Mitch Berger, the punter, is also the holder. See him here, the kick is gone. Oh, yeah.
No doubt. And of all guys to do it, a guy in his 8th year, leader of the team, in a terrible situation where now he puts his defense in the hole again, and they have to come up with a goal line stand.
It could very well be a 4-point penalty.
And again, now they have a chance to make it a 3-possession game.
You know, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they get that situation, they'll just be the old Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they're going to run the ball and play defense. That's it.
Parker is the setback. 1st and goal. 3 personal fouls by Arizona on this drive. Parker. 2 of them, no doubt. One of them, the one on Dansby, maybe. Who knows? Meanwhile, Mike Holmgren is sitting here having flashbacks to the last Super Bowl. But that's another story. 2nd and goal. Holmes split left. He comes in motion now. And they run a pick on that side. Instead of roll to the right. The ball is batted in the air, and it is almost intercepted. Chike O'Keefer was able to bat it. Carey Davis was there. The fullback, Antrell Roll, almost came up with the interception. 3rd and goal.
I think it was a pretty good play there by Carey Davis to save this. So the ball goes up in the air, and anyone can get it, and he looks like he kind of got it and knocked it out of Roll's hands.
And so now that Arizona defense has to turn in one more huge play. 3rd and goal, 2:49. Moeldy Moore is the back. Roethlisberger out of the gun. Ben's going to run it on a quarterback draw, but he won't be able to get past the 3-yard line. That's Gabe Watson who comes in, and what a job. If Arizona is to come from behind, they can thank their defense for doing it twice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You try and spread them out, and you run Ben Roethlisberger. You see him, he's right here. You see he gets penetration right there. He makes a swing move on the center, gets in the backfield, and gets Ben Roethlisberger before he gets started. That was a big play by Gabe Watson.
This is a 21-yard attempt for Reed. Berger holding. And that kick is good with 2:13 to play. Pro Bowl next Sunday.
I'll be watching you guys
on NBC as the kickoff will scoot through the Cardinals and go all the way.
Ball and take a knee.
Yep. Get it out of the end zone and take it at the 20-yard line. Warner going to work, down by 13. Kurt Warner in postseason been tremendous, averaging almost 300 yards passing per game. And of course, he holds the record for most yards in the Super Bowl. He is 1 and 2 on that list in his 2 Super Bowls, winning against Tennessee, losing to New England. Is Brenda Warner, the Warner's parents of 7. He takes over at the 20-yard line with 2:11 to play in the quarter. 5-man rush. Kurt steps up, throws, catch made, but meeting Preston right away. No room to roam is Lawrence Timmons, and he saves it. 4-yard gain, 24 yards.
Lawrence Timmons is in there now because they're playing their nickel defense, and he's the nickel middle linebacker. In fact, the guy that used to play that position is Troy Polamalu. So you say, geez, we're not seeing him blitz much anymore because he doesn't play that position in nickel. Timmons plays it now.
Fitzgerald held to that one catch at the end of the first half. Give it to James to the 28-yard line. You look at the career arc of Kurt Warner, John, and very few athletes. I mean, they start out and he's boxing groceries, and he's playing the NFL Europe and Arena League, and then the graph goes all the way to the top, and then it kind of goes down to the bottom, and you think he's about done. And now he's trying to make it go to as high as it did in '99 again.
I know watching him on TV, I thought there's something different about Kurt Warner. I mean, obviously the way he's playing is great, but he looked different. He used to play at 225. Today he's 203. So he lost weight.
Looks like he's been at the spa for a month. 3rd and 2. He's going to roll to the right, moving pocket, and then it's caught by Bolden. So they move the chains here in the final minute of the 3rd quarter to set up a first down at the 33-yard line.
Yeah, and he's the only quarterback that wears gloves. You know that he said that he had some problems holding on to the ball, and he had some thumb problems and stuff. So he started wearing gloves a couple years ago. And I think in any weather, he's the only quarterback that wears gloves all the time. Here you see him with the Rams, and you look, obviously he didn't have gloves in those days, and it's been his last couple years every game for the Cardinals.
He's taken almost no shots downfield tonight, and that's unusual. Here is Warner giving it to James. He's only attempted one pass more than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage tonight.
Well, because the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has taken it away. I mean, they're playing that cover 2, and you say, geez, we haven't seen much of Polamalu. He's not up there in the line of scrimmage. No, he's playing back. He's the guy that's deep. He's not letting Kurt Warner throw deep. Both those safeties you don't hear much of because they're playing deep.
And the Cards let the clock expire. Bill Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, his family has owned the team since the early 30s, founded in Chicago. Here at Raymond James Stadium, Al Michaels, John Madden. We start the fourth quarter. Entree roll 21 goes in motion. He's a safety, occasionally comes in on offense, as is the case here. Sets up on Fitzgerald's side. He caught one pass during the regular season. Warner dancing around, throws, and it is caught up at the 47-yard line. There's a flag down back at the 29 in the offensive backfield.
Holding, offense number 69. 10-yard penalty, second down.
Second holding call on the left tackle tonight. That's Mike Gandy.
And Mike Gandy has the toughest job of the night. I mean, he's the guy that has to block Harrison here, and you see James Harrison just bull rushes him. You expect a speed rush. He bull rushes him, and right there at the end, he got his left hand up around Harrison's neck. It's really not bad pass protection until right there at the end. Of course, if he doesn't get that, if he doesn't do that, Harrison gets Kurt Warner.
Second and 19. That's 91 yards in penalties tonight against Arizona, and that's caught up at the 30-yard line. Anquan Bolden making the catch. Most penalty yardage in Super Bowl 12, a Denver-Dallas game 31 years ago. Dallas had 94 in that game.
And this is the thing that this, Steeler defense was talking about. You're not going to sack Warner a lot because it gets rid of the ball, but you don't want to let him get in rhythm, and you don't want to let him get comfortable. Now, in the second quarter, they had a little trouble with that. They didn't have trouble in the first quarter, nor did they have trouble in the third quarter at making him uncomfortable.
You see Todd Haley's call on a 3rd down and 13. Good protection, but then the pass is high. Trying to get it to Hightower over the middle. So a lot of short stuff and underneath stuff, and no forays downfield, and it's 4th and 13. Cardinals tonight, look at that. Fitzgerald, no factor. Bolden's caught 7, but only a 10-yard average. Breaston 4 for an average of 9 yards per reception.
Right, and at some point you don't want to force it, but you're going to have to. I mean, this is a Super Bowl. It's a fourth quarter. You're down 20-7. You have to get some big plays.
Graham gets the kick away. Timmons almost blocked it. And it's a very short kick. All kinds of sidebars, backstories in this one. Dan Rooney in the back row, his son Art in front of him. And of course, they hired Mike Tomlin when conventional wisdom had Wisenhunt and Grimm, who were both on Cowher's staff 2 years ago, as the front runners. Wisenhunt gets interviewed by Miami, Atlanta, and Arizona in addition to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh hadn't made his choice. He had to make his move. He chooses Arizona. Grimm doesn't get picked in Pittsburgh and goes to the desert with him. First down now at the 43-yard line. Roethlisberger faking it to Parker. Under pressure. Fires over the middle, and the pass is incomplete, and there's another flag. Hines Ward with Roderick Hood there. Hood making contact. And if it's a defensive foul, that will put Arizona over 100.
Holding. Defense number 26. 5-yard penalty. Automatic. First down.
Well, that won't put him over 100 because it's a 5-yard holding call, but that's 96 yards and another first down.
That's Rod Hood there. You see, you can bump him the first 5 yards. After 5 yards, you can't touch him. So that first group of bumps was okay. It was the second one where they got the flag. Didn't you know that Hines Ward, that once a game started, you wouldn't be mentioning how many practices he missed and all that stuff? He's just a gamer.
Little doubt. Parker to the Cardinal 47-yard line. Mike Tomlin mentioned him in the pregame show, talking about the fact youngest coach ever in the Super Bowl, 36, second year in the league, went to school at William and Mary. He is so young, he played against James Farrier, one of his players. Farrier was at Virginia. Says, I had no recollection of it. William and Mary was like a warm-up game for us. And he's younger than Kurt Warner. 2nd and 4. But he has become the blueprint. And that's a nice stop here. Darnell Dockett stopping him. And John, you know, we've heard owners, in particular Steve Bisciotti, telling Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore last year when they were looking for a coach and they wind up with John Harbaugh, who was a pretty good choice. He says, go out and find me the next Mike Tomlin. A lot of owners are thinking in those terms right now.
Right, that's what they're doing, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, you get that young coach that you know is bright, that you know he can be a head coach, and if you can be a head coach at any age, you can be one when you're a young head coach. And then he had success. Here he is in the Super Bowl, and you know, go find me one like him that could do the same things he did.
3rd and 8 from the 50. Roethlisberger pressured out of the pocket, and finally they get to him at the 36, and that's a big-time sack by Darnell Dockett on a big play, because we still have 12 minutes to go, but it was a 3rd down, and this forces them to punt, and Arizona could wind up with the ball in relatively decent position with a decent run back.
You know, 2 big plays by Darnell Dockett. He made a big play on the one before, and then again he gets on the nose, takes a side, and for a big guy, he has a great burst. And he burst right into Ben Roethlisberger.
He was the man who saved what would have been a Roethlisberger touchdown early in the game and was overturned on a challenge. Berger's kick, very good kick. Fielded at the 13-yard line, and it is Steve Breaston who gets buried there by William Gay. 11:30 left, 4th quarter. Steelers by 13. This drive starts at the 13-yard line. Warner over the middle. That's caught. Preston makes the catch. Gain of 12. Again, Larry Fitzgerald tonight, just 1 catch. His father, well-known story, gotten a lot of pub this week. And there he is, the senior Fitzgerald, who writes a weekly column and has for years in a Minneapolis newspaper. He's also been a radio host for a number of years and chronicling his son tonight, but hoping that he's going to get a little bit better story than he has at this point. From the 25, Warner throws over the middle. Wide open there is Jeremy Urban, who makes the catch. And now the Arizona Cardinals going without a huddle, working with alacrity. It'll be a 1st down up at the 44-yard line.
Well, the Cardinals are doing what they have to do now. Is they're opening up. You know, they're speeding the pace up. They're getting the ball deeper down the field. Look how deep those safeties are. I mean, they're giving them that whole middle, but nothing deep.
Warner hit as he throws, gets it away, short gain. Taylor and Townsend take care of Fitzgerald, finally making the catch. Harrison forced the issue with Warner there, and that's the 2nd catch for Larry, and again working without a huddle.
You see James Harrison here. I mean, he's just a super pass rusher because he's so strong in the legs that he can get underneath your leverage and underneath your power. Look at how deep these safeties are back here. That's why they're not getting anything deep, because those 2 safeties are not letting you get deep.
2nd and 4, and underneath, the pass goes to J.J. Arrington, their 3rd down back. So Arrington hasn't played that much until now. Was bothered by a tweaked knee, makes the catch, 22-yard gain, and all of a sudden Arizona in business at the 28.
And you give Kurt Warner an opening, he's going to find it with those safeties that deep. Look how open the middle is. Look at his eyes here. I mean, he sees it. He sees those safeties deep. He knows if they're that deep and taking away that outside stuff, I am going to have a check down in the middle.
Drive started back at the 13-yard line, quickly downfield, pass caught. Fitzgerald will pick up a 1st down. You see the flag that came in, and Larry takes the ball inside the 10-yard line. But another penalty. We've had 96 yards of penalties on Arizona and 15 against Pittsburgh.
Part of the pass, holding, defense, number 24. Penalties decline, 1st down.
Take the play.
Yeah, look at the hands on Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he has big and strong hands. He's the outside receiver here. He wins the battle right there in the line of scrimmage. But look how his hands just go up and he just plucks the ball out of the air. And he has very big hands and very, very strong hands. Both he and Bolden have strong hands.
At the 10, 1st down and goal. Warner perfect on this drive, which has consumed only 2.5 minutes and has gone 77 yards. And then the pass to the outside, Fitzgerald makes the catch, and Fitzgerald is ridden down by Ike Taylor at the 5-yard line. It'll be 2nd down and goal for the Cardinals.
Now, you know, they've been playing Larry Fitzgerald so much to the inside and deep. Look how far off they are. Now, if they want to do that, and he'd been going inside the whole game, as I said, if you want to play off that far and double, we'll just throw the out in front of you.
Father and son, Larry's caught 3 passes on this drive. Also, they brought in Jeremy Urban and J.J. Arrington, who barely played until this drive. They went to the no huddle, and all of those things have put them in a position to get right back in it. 2nd down and goal from just inside the 5-yard line. Warner dumps it. Hightower, can he get in? He can only get to the 1-yard line. And just to make it official, Terry McAuley had signaled that was a timeout Arizona. He meant to say, he turned it around when we went to the break, timeout Pittsburgh. They took a defensive timeout.
Again, Kurt Warner knows that he's going to have something there in the middle as his outside receivers going outside, and then he runs what we call a middle screen. Most screens that the Cardinals run are to the outside. That one was right up the middle.
3rd and goal. Hightower is the back. The rookie out of Richmond is the running back. And it's going to be a fade for Fitzgerald, who's going to go up and make the catch for the touchdown. Larry Fitzgerald and his father, like a true journalist, no cheering in the press box as the 6'3" Fitzgerald goes over the 6'1" Ike Taylor and holds it in.
There's no one that does it better than Larry Fitzgerald, to go up and get the ball at the highest point, and the defender cannot go as high as he can go. I mean, he is super, super, super at this. And he didn't do much, though. You know, 3 quarters, and you get here at the end of the 4th when they need him, and he's made big plays on this drive.
Neil Rackers to the extra point. And that drive took only 3:57. It goes 87 yards. Larry Fitzgerald, 6 receiving touchdowns this postseason, tying the mark set by Jerry Rice in '88. Let's go back to the way he plucks it.
Yeah, I mean that's why you have to have big hands and strong hands. And then if you have big hands and strong hands and you can jump like that, you're going to make touchdowns like that. That had a little David Tyree in that play.
Just a little bit. Caught a little bit of the front part of the helmet.
You know, it was just a matter of time, though. I mean, didn't you feel that, you know, they were doubling him, those safeties were way off, that the Cardinals were, you know, had to find a way to get the ball to Larry Fitzgerald, and they did.
Racker's kick is fielded at the 6-yard line. This is Carey Davis running it back up to the 24-yard line. Pushy shovey here with Davis and Bison. Let's go back to the receiving radius.
Well, you know, that's what quarterbacks love, is when you have a big radius like that where you can jump and you can use your body and you have a big body and you can just pluck the ball out of the air. And all Kurt Warner has to do is not necessarily always throw it to Larry Fitzgerald, but just throw it away from the defender.
Taylor right there, but we've seen Fitzgerald do that so much, especially in postseason, where he's really come into the country's consciousness. From the 24-yard line, the handoff goes to Parker. Willie Parker takes it up to the 28-yard line. Monty Beisel makes the tackle. It'll be 2nd down and 7 after a gain of 3.
You know, Larry Fitzgerald has kept the Cardinals in this game, but another guy is Darnell Dockett. I mean, just think of the big plays that he made. You know, down there in the goal line, that last series when he was getting penetration. This guy has come up very big today for the Cardinal defense.
That defense did, especially after the personal foul on Adrian Wilson. The 2 goal line stands, limiting them to a field goal, keeping them in a position where it's a 2-possession game. And now, of course, it's a 1-possession game. 2nd down and 6. Ben is going to get buried at the 18-yard line, and that is Dockett coming right up the middle.
He was on the right guard, Darnell Stapleton, on this one. You see him right here, and he just takes an inside charge, and he's so powerful and so strong that he goes in that center guard gap, and right there, and he just explodes it. And then when he comes out of his explosion, he's right on Ben Roethlisberger.
10-yard sack Woodley Moore is the back. 3rd down and 16. Four-man rush. Time for Ben. Swings it out near side. Catch made, and short of the first down is Miller. So they had to protect against a 16-yard gain. Miller winds up with a gain of 10, but it will be 4th down and 6, and the Cardinals are going to get the ball with under 6 minutes to play.
And now I know what Ben, what Mike Tomlin's thinking about right here is we got the #1 defense in football. We've been #1 all year, and now we're in the Super Bowl. We're in the 4th quarter. We're about 5 minutes left to go. We have to prove we're the best defense.
Berger with a wobbly kick. It takes a pretty decent Pittsburgh bounce and will roll dead at the 25-yard line. Go back 2 decades. If the Steelers have an 11 or more point lead, there it is. 1 loss in 144 regular season games. There was 1 tie as well. 10-0 in postseason. But right now, in a game in which it was 20-7 not that long ago, it's 20-14. From the 25-yard line, J.J. Arrington is in the backfield with Warner. Fitzgerald comes to the left. Looking to the right. Looking to Bolden. That time Taylor covers Bolden. And now you got a lot of shoving going on, and you got a flag coming in, and Ken Wisenhunt is right in the middle of the play, and Ike Taylor was there with the coverage.
Again, that was what I was talking about, is you throw it away from the defender to your big wide receivers, and Kurt Warner says those guys are so big and strong that no defender can go through them. I think Bolden just showed that on that play.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Defense, number 24. 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
Ike Taylor not swagging right there.
Look at this. I mean, that's a play. You put it on the outside where there's no way the defender can get him. And they got Taylor. He threw that first punch. They got the right guy. They usually get the second guy.
Sure.
I think they got the right guy in Ike Taylor that time. He threw the first punch.
That's Pittsburgh's first penalty in the second half. Ball at the 49 after the foul. 5 minutes to go. They want to draw with Arrington, and he gets taken down by Farrier. Again, Arrington playing so little, had a tweaked knee. We didn't see Urban. They brought them both in on that last drive. They went to no huddle. Haley mixed it up, and they went 87 yards, and they're back in business here.
And they're doing the same thing. They're going no huddle again. Shotgun, 4 wide receivers. I think they can still do some business in that middle.
2nd and 10. Warner's looking over that middle, and they're doing business. You bet. Preston to the 26-yard line. Polamalu looks at the official, and he says, where's the hold? No flag. 1st down, 23-yard gain.
Yeah, we talk about the patterns and the quarterback throwing and the guys catching, but look at this pass protection. Look at that pocket for Kurt Warner. He can look and read and step up, and no one is close to touching him. Well, if they pull this off, Al, and if Kurt Warner does this, well, should he be a Hall of Famer or not?
Here's a flag here, and Warner's going to throw it away, and you've got a hold. Mike Gandy again.
Holding. Offense, number 69. 10-yard penalty, 1st down.
Holding Harrison, and when you have Harrison over you, well, 3 holding calls tonight on Gandy.
And you knew that that was going to happen. He's so tough to block, and you have to keep him off your quarterback. You see, he faked to the inside, and usually when your feet get out of position as a tackle, then you use your arms or your hands, and you do it illegally. That's what happened again. He got faked inside, put his arm outside.
Warner has 10 consecutive completions. 1st and 20 at the 36. Warner. Ooh, and Polamalu trying to sneak in. Intended for Bolden.
And he'll do that. I mean, here's Troy Polamalu. on the outside, and he's reading Kurt Warner, and then he just jumps inside. You know, that he didn't play him from the outside. Kurt Warner was trying to get it to his outside shoulder. Polamalu almost made that play.
Brenda Warner, she's been here before. Her third Super Bowl as well. 2nd down and 20. Bolden and Fitzgerald both coming off the left side. Warner over the middle, and the pass is almost picked, and that time it was Tyrone Carter who was there. Incomplete. Jeremy Urban was the intended receiver, and now you have a 3rd down and 20.
You know, Norv Turner, whose Chargers lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, said one thing about the Steeler defense. He said Dick LeBeau will always wait till the 4th quarter, and he'll have a special blitz that you haven't seen. It's usually a corner, and I would think if he's going to do a special blitz, it would be on this play here.
And meanwhile, the Cardinals have to think about, do they go to set up a field goal opportunity? Right now it's 53 yards. Do you get half of it and give Rackers a better chance? Key play. 3rd down and 20. Warner, and he gets hit as he throws, and the pass is incomplete. Lamar Woodley put the pressure on. So now you're in a situation, it's 4th down and 20. Warner's looking over to the bench. The other thing you can do is punt. You can punt, try to pin him deep, have your defense take over, get the ball back. Because if you try a Rackers field goal and he misses, you give Pittsburgh the ball near midfield.
Yeah, here comes Woodley, and again, you expect those guys to speed rush, and then they bull rush, and they go right through you like he did on Levi Brown, that play. And as you say, you know, punt is a possibility. Punt is a pretty good call right here.
That penalty on Gandy, very harmful when he took him out of field goal range. He puts the nose of the ball down, goes Graham. Can they stop it inside the 5? And there are 2 flags now, way back where the kicker was. Meanwhile, the ball is down at the 2-yard line, but again, the game has become very chippy. You've got McCauley throwing a flag. There's another flag down back at the 35-yard line. It was 4th and 20.
During the kick, personal foul, unnecessary roughness. Receiving team, number 92. Half the distance from the end of the play. 1st down, Pittsburgh.
Huge. James Harrison, well, they said 92 after the play. So here's the ball. The change of possession, it's huge in the sense that at what point it was called. And here's Harrison. So if that happens before the change of possession, and look at that, yeah.
I mean, he ought to be thrown out for that. I mean, I love him. I love the way he's playing, but that, I mean, you don't do it. You don't punch a guy and punch him when he's down, and that's, you know, and I like aggressiveness. I like tough football, but that's overboard.
And they say it all depends, and it was used in the sense that during the kick, it's a post-possession foul. So in other words, they already deemed possession to have been changed, meaning that it's not a 1st down for Arizona. Pittsburgh keeps the ball, but they're at the 1-yard line. Can they get breathing space? 3:26 left in the 4th, and Roethlisberger's going to throw, and that pass is incomplete, intended for Hines Ward, and 3 red shirts surround him, and that stops the clock. 3:21, 2nd down and 10.
You know, here's where the Steelers better get Darnell Dockett blocked, because he's the guy that's been causing the havoc inside. He's been getting penetration, and he's the guy that, you know, could make a big play here. Just as I say that, he runs out of the game.
And let's give a shout out to Mike.
I think if I'm coaching, I want Dockett in there right now. This is, to me, when you got him backed up like this is like goal line.
Shout out to Michael Adams, who was the guy who downed the ball at the 1-yard line. Can Parker get out of the end zone? Can he get out is the question. And they're going to say he does. He just gets out. The whole ball has to get out, as opposed to a touchdown where the tip of the ball touches the front of the goal line. That's a touchdown. In this case, to come out of the end zone, the entire football must come out of the end zone. Arizona now takes a timeout. It'll be 3rd down and 10 from just outside the goal line. Oh, baby, I tell you what.
They had him. I mean, he may, if the whole ball gets out, it got out after the initial contact.
Yep, that second burst by Parker avoids the safety. You've got Travis LeBoy, 55, is the guy right there who wrestles him down. And we're going to have a 3rd down and 10 now with 3:04 left in the 4th, and Arizona using a timeout, so they have 2 left.
Right, if LeBoy could have held him there, that would have been a safety. But right at the end, Parker was able to get the whole ball out.
Now, for the Steelers, there's a dilemma here. Sure, you want to get the 1st down, obviously. That would be the best result, but you have to also think about getting some extra space. Otherwise, Mitch Berger is going to have to take that snap about 9.5 yards back from center.
Right, and what you want is 15. So one of their goals has to be get the ball out at least to the 5-yard line to give your punter the full 15 yards from the snapper.
Then
they could take a safety here, too.
Out of the gun, Roethlisberger is going to throw over the middle, and the pass is going to be caught by Holmes at the 21-yard line. Santonio Holmes gets inside Rogers Cromartie, and a flag is down.
Holding offense number 62.
Ooh, that's a safety.
The foul occurred in the end zone.
Safety.
Safety.
Wow. Justin Hartwig is the center, so instead of Holmes maybe securing a Lombardi trophy, you've got a safety, you've got a 20-16 game, and you have a kick coming from the 20-yard line. Look at this.
Justin Hartwig in a takedown. And again, the rule is holding in the end zone is a safety.
2 points. Look at that pass to Holmes. Got inside Cromartie. Hartwig held Cheeky O'Keefer for the safety, and now it negates this play right here, which would have taken them out to the 21, given them a fresh set of downs, and compelled Arizona to use its remaining 2 timeouts.
Oh boy, just think, how important penalties have been in this game, or how big they've been on both sides.
There hasn't been a safety in a Super Bowl since Bruce Smith sacked Jeff Hostetler here in Tampa in Super Bowl 25. Bruce Smith going into the Hall of Fame yesterday.
I was saying earlier that, Mike Tomlin had a call on his defense in that last situation. Now he really has to call on him. Because one thing you get after the safety, you get a free kick from the 20-yard line, so the Cardinals should get pretty good field position after this.
Kicks it away. Breston is back to receive it. Hauls it in at the 28 and gets buried at the 36. That's a great play right there by Patrick Bailey, who plays almost exclusively on special teams, right there to smother him at the 36-yard line.
Great tackle by Bailey. I mean, first of all, you have to get by blockers, you have to get down there, then you have to time it up, and then you have to make a tackle like that.
Dan Rooney, jacket off.
Suspenders tightened up.
Right, standing up, bracing himself.
This is big. This is big.
Set up for a fantastic finish. J.J. Arrington is in the backfield. Bolden and Fitzgerald share a word on the right side. Warner throws over the middle, and that pass is incomplete, in and out of the hands of Anquan Bolden. It'll be 2nd down and 10.
The Steelers are using their dime defense now, so it's just all about pass rush and pass coverage. And again, I like the Cardinals when they got in that no huddle pace and started getting the ball to Fitzgerald, and maybe somewhere on this drive they ought to go back to that. Now they got those safeties deep again.
2nd and 10. Warner has time. Fitzgerald into Steeler territory. 30, 20, 10. Arizona has the lead.
He hit him in the perfect place. That middle was wide open. As I said, those safeties were 20 yards deep, and you're going to see that big hole there. And once Larry Fitzgerald gets into that hole, look, the safeties are deep, and they're off looking for the wide receivers, and Larry Fitzgerald catches that ball and runs right through it. Kurt Warner read the defense, knew where he had to go, and he went to the perfect guy in the perfect situation.
And watches himself go into the end zone on the big screen. Rackers for the point after, and with 2:37 to play in regulation, the Cardinal lead is 3.
Yeah, here's what Kurt Warner was looking at, talking about how deep these safeties are. You see they're back here. Now look at this whole area here, and if you can just get a receiver into here, then he can run right through it. And that's exactly what they did. You see the big hole in the middle? The safeties work to the outside. He gets Fitzgerald in that hole, and he runs right through the defense.
Looking up at the board, there he is. There's about a half-second delay up on that board, so when he's at the 10-yard line, he's only at the 15 on the video.
Hey, but one thing you know, when you get out in front, you never want to look back.
Right.
But Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator, he saw those holes in there. He knew where the weaknesses were. He knew that he had to get a guy in there. It had been a back before. That time he got Larry Fitzgerald in that hole.
Rackers kick to the goal line. This is Carey Davis. Bangs his way up to the 22-yard line. This would be the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history. The biggest deficit erased until now had been 10 points. This game was once a 13-point game at 20-7, and that Arizona defense, which stiffened twice on 1st and goal and withstood the Adrian Wilson personal foul penalty, Arizona's defense right now can win the game in effect by stopping them.
You know, it's funny, you go through the whole season and all the stats and the Pittsburgh stats, but when you needed them to play, they didn't do it. And now the Arizona defense, not a great stat defense this year, but now you need them to play. Are they going to do it?
From the 22-yard line. 4-man rush. Roethlisberger buys time, dumps it off underneath, catch made, flag down again. Weldy Moore. We have had 16 accepted penalties in this game.
And this is going to be holding on the Steelers.
It'll be the 6th penalty against Pittsburgh.
Holding, offense, number 68. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Chris Kemoyatu, the left guard, with a hold.
Yeah, when you see that umpire throw that flag, he's the official right behind the defensive line, and he's looking for holding, and that's all he's looking for.
There's been in the regular season since 04 when he came into the lead, 17 game-winning drives in the 4th quarter or overtime, which is where we are right now, 1st and 20 from the 12. Roethlisberger avoids the sack. Dockett chases him, throws on the run, caught. He extends the play again. It's Santonio Holmes, makes the catch, 27-yard line. Then trying to get a play off before the 2-minute warning. They have 2 timeouts, plus the clock will stop at the 2-minute warning. I don't believe they're going to be able to get the, well, they do, just before the 2-minute warning. And Ben's going to go deep downfield, and that pass is going to be tipped and incomplete, and no flag. Intended for Nate Washington. Tampa, Florida, Super Bowl 43. Al Michaels and John Madden with you. What a game, 23-20, twists and turns and just about everything imaginable. The Harrison play at the end of the first half. There's your quarterback comparison right now. Warner 344. Warner with the numbers 1 and 2 marks in Super Bowl history. And in a 3-point game, this would rank 6th right now if he doesn't gain another yard. No Super Bowl game has ever gone to overtime. They've been close, but never into OT. It's 3rd and 6 from the 26. Card showing blitz, and here they come. And Roethlisberger escapes and throws, and the pass is caught. Holmes reaches up, makes the catch. Dansby was back there in coverage with him, blitzing the backers. Francisco came in, the safety as well. Huge first down.
You know, and that's the thing about the blitz, and the Cardinals even talked about that. You know, you want to blitz Ben, but if you don't get him and he can step up, he can make a big play on you.
2 timeouts for Pittsburgh. Pass caught. Washington will try to get out of bounds, and he can't. So that keeps the clock rolling. Adrian Wilson makes the tackle again. Pittsburgh at least trying to get into field goal range for one of the better kickers in the league, and there he is. And it's become a little bit windy here on a night that started completely windless. 70 seconds to go. 1st and 10. Roethlisberger stepping up. He's going to run. Not far. He's going to get taken down at the 46-yard line. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to spend a timeout. They have 1 left. 61 seconds. Jeff Reed, and when you kick at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, you're kicking at probably the toughest venue in the NFL. This not nearly as tough, but what about the wind? Andrea, you're down there. What's going on?
Well, it's definitely picked up down here, Al. Now, Jeff Reed told me that going in this direction, his range is 53 yards, but keep in mind that he would now be kicking into the wind with the breeze picking up as it has.
Right, the front coming in, I guess, from the north, because it's the northern end that he would kick toward. So the wind picking up. There it is. There wasn't a breath of air before the game until sometime here in the second half. 2nd down and 6 now.
So to be in that range, they would have to get inside the 35-yard line.
Right. Make it a 52, 53-yard boot. 2nd down and 6. Rushing 5. Ben pumps, throws, caught. Holmes. Francisco falls down. Holmes is going to take it inside the 10, and he's going to get to the 5-yard line. With 49 seconds, and Roethlisberger trying to get up to the line of scrimmage, but they will take a timeout. A timeout with 49 seconds, their final timeout.
Unbelievable. Ben Roethlisberger buying time. And then you can see Santonio Holmes can do that. You see, he runs it in, and then he can just come under control. Francisco comes up, he falls down. Holmes, a great runner, turns to the outside and up the field. Watch Ben, he pumps it, then his hands are so big and strong. He pumps it like he's going outside, holds it, brings it back, and then gets it to Santonio Holmes.
Pittsburgh has now taken its final timeout. Holmes has caught 8 for 125 yards. So they can't take a timeout. You have 49 seconds. And if they can get into the end zone, they will, with the extra point, compel the Cardinals to go all the way into the end zone to win the game. Forget about the tie. That Arizona defense, so tough. Deep in its own territory. They'll have to be tough again. Steelers spread it out. 3 men to the right, 2 to the left. 4-man rush. Ben coming back the other way, and Holmes can't make that catch. Santonio Holmes that time. Rogers, Cromartie with a coverage. It'll be 2nd down and goal.
Now you think they're going to have to do something to Santonio Holmes over there for the deep one, because he had that. I mean, he was open and the ball went right through his hands. Now you think, what's the next thing they do? I mean, if they're, Santonio Holmes is one thing. To me, the next thing is Heath Miller or Hines Ward in this area.
Ward and Holmes are both lined up to the right side. Miller slot left. Washington outside left. Roethlisberger has time. Throws to the back of the end zone, and it is caught for a touchdown by Holmes.
Unbelievable.
Incredible. The official comes in. Let's just make sure he's in on a play like this. Obviously, they will take a long look upstairs. Ben to the corner of the end zone. Does he get both feet down? Left, definitely. Did the right tap as well with control. You have to have control, both feet down.
I say yes. I say both feet in, both feet down, and control of the ball.
Amazing. 3 Cardinals are there. You've got 3 guys.
He had it on the other side on the play before, though.
Right. The right foot is coming up, but it's down on the ground. Is it down on the ground? Does he toe tap it as he has control of the ball? He has control all the way through, and that's the whole issue right there.
Right. I say he has both feet down and control of the ball.
We have 35 seconds if it stands. With the extra point, you've got a 4-point game, and then Warner and company with 2 timeouts would have to go the length of the field. Field judge coming in right there. He's the closest man to it to signal a touchdown. An amazing play. Greg Gautreaux, the field judge. There's Harrison. The emotions in this game have been over the moon.
Unbelievable. You know, could Kurt Warner do it? Could the Cardinals do it? Then they do it. You know, could the Steelers do it? Could Ben Roethlisberger do it? Then they did it.
I think the call is definitely going to stand because there's nothing that we can see that would overturn that call. You have to see something that overturns what the call on the field is.
I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, he had both feet in and he had control of the ball.
After review, the receiver controlled the football, came down on both toes, inbounds, touchdown was ruled on the field.
Santonio Holmes, who's had so many big plays in postseason, including that punt run back against the San Diego Chargers that turned that game around in the divisional round.
Yeah, again, that was a great call by the offensive coordinator, Bruce Arians, because he had the corner on the left side. Instead of saying, let's go back and do the same thing, he put Holmes over on the right side and ran the same pattern.
Jeff Reed to make it a 4-point game. And that's exactly what he does. 27-23, 35 seconds, 2 timeouts for the Arizona Cardinals, who have to get a touchdown.
Again, look what Ben does. I mean, he's so big and strong that he can buy time, he can move a little, he can pump, bring it back, reload it, and still get it out there. What in the heck do we have to do here? Oh, no.
Santonio Holmes making his 9th catch, 131 yards tonight. Fitzgerald has caught 6, and he's going to have another opportunity with Arizona getting the ball back. Running the kickback will be J.J. Arrington. What the Cardinals really need right now to give them some sort of a chance, a decent shot, is an outstanding run back. Here comes Reed. He's going to back Arrington deep from the 1-yard line. Arrington, 15, 20, and all he gets is up to the 23-yard line. So they need 77 yards in 29 seconds.
And they do have the 2 timeouts, so they can still work that middle. I mean, if Pittsburgh wants to do the same thing and play that, dime defense, play those safeties deep, and give him the middle, Kurt Warner could take it again.
Bolden, Fitzgerald, and Breston, all 3,000-yard receivers, line up on the right side. Jeremy Irvin lines up to the left. Warner buying time over the middle. Fitzgerald makes the catch. Fitzgerald gets the ball out to the 44-yard line, and Arizona is compelled to take a timeout. You just have to take it here. You can't try to spike it. They have one left, 22 seconds.
One thing that the Steeler defense will do is you guard the sidelines. You know, you don't let them get the outs, and if they do get something where they're running towards the boundaries, you have to tackle them. You cannot let them complete a pass and get out of bounds. Dick LeBeau, 71-year-old defensive coordinator, has been in football all his life, and he's seen it all, and that's where experienced coordinators come in, is right here, where no matter what the situation is, you've been there before. Any problems you have, you usually know how to fix.
His team trying to give him a 50th anniversary gift. 10 years as a player, 40 as a coach. First down, 22 seconds, one timeout. They have to go 56 yards. Warner going underneath, and it's to the 44-yard line, and this is Arrington making the catch, and they have to use their final timeout here. So it will come down to this. You have to work the sidelines at this point, or just throw it up into the end zone, and maybe Fitzgerald wins a jump ball.
Right, and that's the thing that the Steelers do, is they give you that inside, then they make you take the inside, and then don't let you get out of bounds, make you use your timeouts. And you say now you have to throw outs or comebacks, you have to throw patterns to the boundaries or in the end zone.
Ben Roethlisberger with a 256-yard night, one touchdown pass, and it may be enough to win Super Bowl 43.
You know, a lot of things in football is when you do them. You know, and I mean, there's stats and people have numbers and they did this or that, but did you do it when you had to do it to win the game?
That would be answered definitively. From the 44, Breston to the left, three receivers to the right. Warner stepping up, buying time, under pressure, trying to sling it away as the arm coming forward. That's Lamar Woodley who got there, and Lamar Woodley creates the fumble and a Pittsburgh recovery with 5 seconds left. Brett Kiesel recovered it. Warner buying time, trying to find room, flags on the field now. After the play, Farrier took his helmet off, but that would be post-possession if this play stands.
After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, recovering team, 15-yard penalty, helmet removal. First down, Pittsburgh.
The question is it a fumble? Is the arm coming forward? Clearly, another thing they will look at upstairs, no challenges in the last 2 minutes. Is it the empty hand? Is the arm coming forward? He's trying to get it out. The question is it an incomplete pass? And of course, the Cardinals are all saying, go over to the hood, go over to the hood. It looks like a fumble to us because his arm is not coming forward as the ball is coming out. And indeed, they looked upstairs, they confirmed it is a fumble, and the Pittsburgh Steelers become the first franchise in history to win 6 Super Bowls. I don't know that you can beat last year's game with the Giants in New England, but this is in the neighborhood. There it is. Santonio Holmes on the drive after Arizona had taken the lead after they had erased a 13-point deficit. There's the Gatorade pass from Mike Tomlin after the change of possession, and in his second year he not only becomes the youngest coach to coach in a Super Bowl, clearly the youngest to win a Super Bowl. John Gruden was 39 when he won for Tampa against Oakland back in 02, and Santonio Holmes, from, as he likes to say in all Buckeyes, the Ohio State University, 9 catches, 131 yards, and the game winner.
You know, you think that both of these teams played so well, and the gap between winning and losing is the widest gap in sports. But they were so close, and they played so hard, and both teams, when they were down, and they kept fighting and coming back, and to me, this is the way football should be played. This is what the NFL is, and this is a heavyweight championship fight.
Back and forth, and how many different storylines and twists did this one have, and how many different leads could you write to this game? It was a classic.
When Santonio Holmes had to make the play, he made it. When Ben Roethlisberger had to make the throw, he made it. They were both perfect.